pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the
Welcome back to the channel, and we are going to be talking about Vue JS today. So Vue is a progressive framework for building user interfaces, apparently. So we're going to check this out, and it's kind of in the same vein as React or Angular, or one of these front-end frameworks you've probably heard so much about. So let's get into this, and we're just going to build some stuff out, give a little intro to it, and show you what you can do and what it might be good for, and some of the benefits. So that was a lot of preamble, but let's get right into it. So I'm going to come over to a terminal here. And in this terminal, we can either download the CLI tools, which should be in the description there, or you can just use npx. So that is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to say npx, and then I'm going to say @Vue like this, and I'll say CLI like so. And then we're going to use the create, and this is going to be like a create React app type of situation. That's what this create is going to do for us. So it's going to build out a bunch of different folders and whatnot that we are going to be using. So then I'm going to call it something. So I will just say intro Vue like this, and I'll hit enter. All right, now when I do this, it's gonna ask me a few different questions. So right now there's a default Vue 2 with Babel and ESLint, the default Vue 3 with a bunch of stuff, and you can manually select some different features there apparently. So I'm gonna be using Vue 2. Now Vue 3 is out, but not everyone switched over to it. So for instance, Nuxt.js, which is a big framework built on Vue, is still using Vue 2. So choose whichever one you want. There will be a few different breaking changes in Vue 3, but probably nothing we're going to talk about today. So select Vue 2 or Vue 3. It shouldn't matter for the purposes of this video. So I'm going to do that, and it should install for me. All right, so that looks like it's all done. So now we can cd into, what do we say, Vue test or something? No, Vue intro. No, intro Vue. There we go. So cd into that, and then I'm just going to open it up in VS Code. All right, so this is what your folder structure will look like right here. We have our source folder here. It gives us a components folder, an assets folder, and that is good. So most of our work, our kind of intro to the Vue app is going to be in this app.vue over here. All right, so this is what we're kind of looking at. So you see we have these template tags here. Now this is what's going to be shown to the screen. And inside here, you're just going to have basic HTML. So unlike React or something where you have your special markup language with JSX, Vue basically uses regular HTML for that, and you work off that. So that's going to be your template tags. Then we just basically have two script tags here. And this will be just very JavaScripty. And then we can import stuff here inside of our script tags. And then we are going to have our export default right here. In here is where like state's going to live. We're going to update components. We're going to do all our methods, different stuff like that in here. And then finally down here, we have our style tags. And that is where you can do your CSS. So it's all very contained and separated by basic tags like that. So that is helpful. One thing to mention before we get started, there's a couple packages here, extensions, that might be useful here. So if I scroll down here, this Vue one right here, just for syntax highlighting, is pretty nice. And then I'm also using this Vue VS Code snippets, and that'll just be a nice little snippets library, make things, development and stuff, speed up a little bit faster. So go ahead and install those if you're interested. They just make things a little bit nicer. So our entry is going to be this main.js here, and we're not going to cover this in depth too much, but this is similar to how it's done in React. And basically we have the new Vue keyword, and then it's going to render the app, which is here, and then it's going to mount this app right here, which is coming from this app tag here, this ID. So that is the entry point basically to the app. Now, since this is just a basic tutorial, we won't go too in depth about that, but rather let's start coding some dang stuff up. All right, so we're going to come into our components right here. We already have this hello world, so let's show you what this looks like on the screen here. So to get things started, we can just say yarn, and we'll say serve as their keyword. And then stuff's going to be at localhost 8080. So we can just command click over to there. And this is what our basic app looks like. Now let's just blow away all this different stuff right here. So we'll just come down here, clear out this a little bit here. We can just close it down. And then we're going to come into our app.view right here. And let's just get rid of all this stuff here. Get rid of that. We can get rid of this here. We can, this is where you're going to import your components. So we'll get rid of that too. And we'll just get rid of all the styling in here as well. Okay. So this is looking pretty good. Should go ahead and save this. And then if we come back, you can see we got nothing on our screen. So that is what we want. Now let's start adding some stuff back. So inside our components, let's just show you how we get something on the screen. So let's create a new file and we'll just call it nav like this. And our ending of it's going to be .view. So go ahead and create that. And you see we have a blank thing here. I'm going to close out of this, give you a little more room here. And this snippet library, we're going to say V like this and just base like that. And it's going to give us a nice little snippet here. We're not going to be using SCSS for that. And you can see the scoped keyword here. So CSS in Vue is done pretty nicely. And this scoped keyword means these styles are only going to apply to this one component. So that's kind of a nice way to do things right there. So let's just come up here and come in here and let's just go H1 and we'll just say intro to Vue like this. And then on this div up here, we're just going to put the class keyword and we'll just say nav like that. So this is going to be kind of a nav bar, I guess, type thing. And then we can come down here and say .nav and style it up. And we're not going to do anything really right now because we don't care about the CSS right now. We'll say green and we'll give it a little padding of 5 pixels like that. So we can go ahead and save that. And now we can just import this component into our app.view. So if we come back to our app.view, this component's right here, we can come in, come down, and we can just say nav like this. And it's going to give us a little warning saying it hasn't been registered, but it's not been used. So we also got to bring it in. So we want to stay inside of our script tag here. And we'll say import nav from, and we'll say ./components/nav like that. All right, so that is looking good. And then finally, we're going to come inside this div here, and we want to use that. So similar to React or whatever, we're just going to go like this and close it off and go ahead and save that. And if we go back to our to check it out, we can see that it says intro to Vue, and this is our sweet looking nav bar, which is all right. So that's good just to show you how things work, how you import components, how you register them in this components object here, which is necessary. So that's good, but let's do a little more in-depth example here. So we'll come back here. We'll create a new component here and we'll just do a little counter example. So we'll call new file and we'll say counter.view like this. And again, we'll say vbase like that. And that'll give us a template. Again, we don't need this SCSS here. There's probably another option that I don't do that, but that's fine. And then inside of here, we're going to do a few different things. So if we're working with kind of state, we're going to need to access that by going like this and saying data like that. And then inside this data object, we're going to return some form of state. And for us, we're just going to have a count variable and we'll start at 1 like this. And this is how you do state. You have to use this data keyword. Now we can add also different methods on top of this. So if we were to come down here and we were to say methods, this is where all our different methods would live. So say we wanted to increment that count. We go like this, increment, and then we could say function like that. And then in here, in this object right here, we can say this.count, and we have to use the this keyword for that. And we can just say plus equals 1 like that. And if we save this, it should reformat for us. I'll give us a little more room right here. And this is a method, increment now in our methods keyword right there. So if we were to come up to our top right here and we wanted to just add this count, we can just go like this and go double curlies like that and just say count. Go ahead and save that. And because we have count in our state basically right here, we should be able to see that show up. So if we are to refresh, we see nothing, but that's because we haven't brought it in, of course. So we have to bring in this counter, come back over, same thing as down here. We'll say counter like this, and say counter like that. And then in here, we'll say counter. Close that off. And again, register it in the components like that. Go ahead and save that. And now let's come back over. And we can see very tiny over here. Bump that up a little bit for you. You can see that we have the 1 right there. Now, what if we wanted to increment that, like is said in our component right here? We want to be able to increment this. So in order to do that, though, we're going to need some sort of button. So we can go like this and create a button. And in order to click on that button, for an on click, we're going to go like this and just say @click, and then we'll go equal. And then in a string right here, we can just pass in that method that we created down here. So we just say increment like that, and we'll just say plus for now, and we'll create another one that will say decrement like that, and that will say minus like that. Now we don't have the decrement method yet, so let's go ahead and do that. So we can just copy this down, and we'll say decrement, and we'll go plus or minus equals like that. Now, when we save that, we should have 2 buttons that allow us to either add 1 or subtract 1. So let's see. So we got plus, goes up, boom, 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 and minus, boom, boom, boom. All right, so that is working pretty good. So that's kind of a basic counter in Vue. As you can see, it's quite straightforward. Not a lot to kind of grok right there. You got your methods, handles your methods. You got your data, handles your state. And then in here, this is your kind of view layer, what's going to be seen on the screen. All right, so that is very good. Now, I want to do one more thing where we actually bring in some data from an outside URL and show you how that's done. So let's come in here, new file, and we'll bring in some posts.view. Again, vbase, same thing. Getting a little repetitive, but that's all good. So let's come over to our posts. All right, so let's add a little bit of information up here. So we'll do an H1 again, say posts like that, come down below that, and we'll have a UL. Inside that UL, we'll have an LI. Now, this is where a lot of the fun's gonna happen. So we're gonna be bringing in a bunch of posts from an API, JSON placeholder, I think we've probably used before on this channel. And then we're just going to be displaying them to the screen. So we're going to show you how to do a bunch of different stuffs like that. Right here, we're just going to go like this, and we're going to be going post.title. And this will be getting the title of our post. But in order to do that, we need to loop through all the different posts. So we can do that by coming up to this LI right here. And in Vue, we have this V, and you see all these different things pop up. And there are a bunch of different options, if or if statements, v-for, which we're going to be using right now, else if, all these different things. And that's how they kind of handle conditional statements and whatnot. So we're going to say v-for, and this is going to do a for loop. And again, everything is done within these strings. So we're going to say posts in posts, and that's going to loop through all these different things. And then we're going to have to add a key. And in order to do that, this colon here is going to bind stuff to this key. So we can say key like this. This colon is going to be equal to, I think it's vbind. Yeah, or bind. Yeah, bind like this. It's going to be the same thing as just doing a colon like this and saying key. And then our post is going to say post.id, I think. We might need to check that after. And this is going to loop through, and then we're going to display every single post, every single title of each post. So this is for loops in Vue JS. All right, so now we got a bunch of stuff we need to add to our export default. One thing is we have no data. So let's get some data, and we'll do that like this. And in here, we're just going to set the initial state of our posts like that, and we'll just set it to an empty array, okay? Now, in order to hit a URL, we have to use this created, or there's different lifecycle methods, and create is one of them. There's also mounted and different stuff like this, but we want to hit this once the DOM is registered to the page, basically, and that's going to be this created right here. So we're going to say created pass in a function like this. And in here, we're going to say this dot fetch data. Now, fetch data like that and call that. Now, this fetch data we haven't created yet, so we need to go and do that. And this is where we're going to actually get the data from this outside API. So that is looking good, but we need to come down here. And in here, we'll have our methods section. And let's create this fetch data like this. So we're going to say fetch data, and we can do an async function here like this. And if we come in here, we'll have a try catch block. So inside the try, we're going to say const, and we'll say res, and that's going to be for the response, and that's going to be equal to await, because we call an async function up here. So await, and we'll say fetch, and then we want to pass in the URL that we are fetching from. Now, we've used this API, I think, for something in the past, but we're going to use it again right here. So it's https JSON placeholder.typecode.com/posts, and it gets like a bunch of different posts. And there's a bunch of different URLs if you want to check that out as well. So we're going to come down here and we'll say const, and we'll say posts, and that is equal to await, and we'll say res.json here. There we go. And then we want to set these posts. Now, in order to do that, we're just going to go this.posts, which we've already created the state up here. So this.posts, and that's going to be equal to these posts that we set right here. So we'll say posts like that. And then finally down here, we'll have a catch block, and we'll pass in the error, and we'll just console.log the error right there in case there is one. All right, so we save and reformat, and this is what our method is going to look like. And we're not going to style this or anything, make it look good, but this is basically going to get a bunch of posts and display them to the screen by looping over them with this v.for posts and posts. So let's check out what this looks like, but first we got to register it, of course. So I'll come down in here, and we're going to say posts like this, and again down here. And finally, let's go under this counter, and we'll just add posts like that. Now we save that, and we can come out and check this out. So we got our posts, and we got our list of a bunch of different posts right here, all printing to the DOM like that. So that, I think, is all we're going to be doing for our intro to Vue. I think we covered a lot of different stuff, how to import components, some of the different lifecycle methods that we're going to be using with the created in posts right here. We only use one. There's a bunch of different lifecycle methods to check out. So check out the docs for those. And then where you handle methods, how you do styling. Kind of covered a whole array of different things. But of course, there's much more to learn. So if you'd like to see more Vue stuff, let me know. Yeah, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.